My favorite topic, the weather. Now, it's a bit of a hot topic, so you know, you can never get prepared for the British weather. And most of the time when you hear about the British weather, it's all negative. And some there is some truth to it. Sometimes it's greatly exaggerated. So let me give you some tips and tricks on how to best navigate the British weather according to my experience. Now, in winter, there's one thing I've learned, right? And it's not a trusted weather app. Now, I say that because you can read that, it says 0 degrees outside, and, you go outside and it doesn't feel like 0 degrees, right? And so the trick I like to do is, I like to put my hand outside the window, for a good like minute or so to feel like how cold it is, so what it is I can get away with. And the name of the game in winter is layering, right? So it doesn't matter how it is you want to do this, right? You just gotta put on different layers and you gotta cover yourself, and not leave any parts exposed, right? So if you want to wear a t-shirt, that's cool. You put on your t-shirt and then you may think, you know what, let me throw in another light sweater on top and then a scarf, and then you can go and put on a heavy jacket, right? Or you can decide to ditch the heavy jacket and then you go for something like a trench coat, right? But the name of the game is layering. And to see what I'm talking about, you can check out Pinterest. I'm just gonna put a shameless plug in there, Pinterest, and it can give you a bunch of different ideas, and honestly it does wonders, right? So layering, and it's important to make sure that you get your hands covered, your neck, and you get something that is a bit waterproof, because you will discover very quickly in Portsmouth it tends to rain a lot during the winter, right? And so one thing is there, it looks all right, and next thing you know, the weather has switched up and it's raining. So just know layering is your best option. And an umbrella, I wouldn't really recommend an umbrella because you're gonna quickly also realize they don't last that long because of the wind, right? And the wind can be sometimes very nasty, right? So you just walk in one direction and you take a corner and the wind is going in the complete opposite direction. And if you are having your umbrella, all of a sudden it's broken. So, just be very careful about umbrellas. I myself prefer, waterproof jacket, but everybody has different preferences. Now, in summer, your best bet is water. It's important to keep hydrated, right? Because most of the time you realize, the temperatures can get to 30 degrees, and honestly, it's not as fun as it looks. Obviously we have the beach and it's really fun. You can just go over there and chill, get a fresh breeze. But you gotta remember one thing: you gotta get to the beach for the first time, right? And if you're dehydrated, you can end up at the beach and then you pass out, and all of a sudden, you gotta go to the hospital because the paramedics have been called. So keep hydrated, and wear clothes that are breathable, where the wind can just hit, cool you down easily, if that's your type of thing. Or keep hydrated is the main important thing. But other than that, the weather's not so bad. The great thing about it is it's also good for photography. If you're a seasonal type of person, seasonal photography is a thing. So enjoy, and hope you like